Lesson 9.4, Direct, Joint, and Inverse Variation. To start with this lesson, I'm going to go to this example and remind ourselves that a direct variation equation is of the form y equals kx, where k is the slope, or you could call it the tangent, or more typically known as the variation constant. Now, they ask us to find y when x is 7. And if it is direct variation, it would look in this way. Now, I know that because y varies directly as x, and that's the order in which we write it. But in this problem, if we know x is 7, that's not enough. We need to know what k is also. And that is where these two values come into play. They tell you that when y is 12, x is -3. And that allows us to solve for k. So k, in this case, is -4. And once we know that, we can go back to our problem, plug in our k value, our variation constant, or our slope, whichever you want to call it, and we get y equals -28. So we had to first find k, and then we could go on and solve the problem. Now, varies jointly is another saying, but it means the same relationship as to vary directly. But the difference is, where we would stop there for for y varies directly as x, when there's more than one variable that it varies directly to, they call it varies jointly. So we would just take this z and put it on the end. So now we have y equals k x z. So now we have y equals k x z. And again, they ask us to find y when x is 10 and z is 5. But again, we cannot do this unless we know what k is. And again, that's where these pieces of information come into play. If y is 12, then x is 3 and z is 8. So we can go forward and solve for k. So we have 1/2, or 0.5. Taking that information, we can now go back to this problem, plug in our new k value that we found, and calculate the rest of the problem. So y is equal to 25. Alright? Now, if we think in the opposite direction, in terms of inverse, another saying is to say A varies inversely as B. So whereas when it was direct variation, we had an equation like this, that was with direct. For inverse, it looks like this. It's a division problem. So now we would approach this the same way. Now this is in the order they give it to us. It says A varies inversely as B. So in that order, that's how I'd write it. So again, they want to find A when B is -7, but we don't know what K is. So we go to this part, and it tells us that when A is -6, B is 2. So we solve for K by multiplying both sides by 2. We get -12. Given that information, then A equals -12 over -7. Or in other words, just 12/7. So very similar problems, but you have to read carefully to know if they are using the direct variation equation or the inverse variation. And this ends lesson 9.4.